Hey Vault Hunters, welcome back to another Borderlands 4 video, and today I'm going to show you a Deadringer Vex build that uses Spectres and has tons of status effect damage, doing a whole bunch of different status effects. It's extremely satisfying to play. It's excellent at drill sites and demolishing those vile enemies. So if you are bounty hunting, trying to get some XP to level up your specializations, this is a great build. And you can also do bossing too. You just have to swap around some weapons. This build also doesn't use the crit knife at all. I made sure not to use it in any clips so that you guys can't get on me for that. However, there is bleed in this build because it is a status effect build. We are going into all the skill points to crit status effects and maximize the amount of different status effects we can have on each enemy, and it's a really fun build. I love dot builds and status effect builds. They're extremely satisfying in my opinion. So let's dive right into the build. I've kind of gone over the playstyle a little bit with that intro, so you know it's kind of just about dotting the enemy and getting your specters out. With this build, your specters are also going to be equipping your gun, whatever gun you have out. They're going to be shooting with that. It's a little buggy. They don't always hit their target, but that was where the skill points were going to get the status effects can crit points and stuff like that. So I'll show you that in the skill tree. But basically the gameplay style is just pop down a specter or two, and then I like to throw this fire grenade that I found that is amazing. You could probably find a similar one. This is going to put a nice fire dot on the enemy, and then this build is also spec'd into splash damage, so we're using some splash damage weapons to take advantage of that as well. Alright, so speaking of gear, let's take a look at that. This is our loadout here. Our main gun is going to be the Wombo combo. As always, I'm going to have links to the dedicated drops in the description if you want to check that out. But this gun has rockets that fire from the underbarrel, and it's a Vladoff as well. And you got to be kind of careful with this gun because you can kill yourself with this gun if you run into those rockets. But I'll show you here. Where am I? But I'll show you here real quick on the dummy. You can kind of see the explosion damage. You can see the rockets coming out of the gun. So you're also going to want to look at the damage for this gun because I've seen a lot of wildly different damage ranges for the Wombo combo. You can get it in every element, I believe. I'm not sure if this drops kinetic. At least I haven't been able to get one because I was thinking you could go into lifesteal with a kinetic Wombo combo, but I haven't seen it drop yet. So if anybody knows, leave me a comment down below. The other weapons that we're going to go with are our trusty Vladoff extra barrel with Jacobs. I just love this just in general. And then we've got Hot Slugger on here as well. The Rainbow Vomit is a really good one to use for mobbing for the elements. And then of course we've got our Beam Tossers, which are always great as well for ad clear and for bossing. Also for bossing, the Hot Slugger is a great option, and the Spread Launcher Alt Fire, if you can find this, it does a hell of a lot of damage and you'll do a lot of damage to the boss, especially if you have the crit knife. But if you don't, you're still going to do a decent amount of damage. And then lastly, I also like to equip a taser. It's a really nice just damage that you can just pop onto an enemy and then switch weapons. But anything that does a good amount of elemental damage is what you want to focus on here. We're just trying to get those status effects on the enemy. And then looking at the Repkit, I've got elemental affinity on here, elemental damage dealt by 25% and enrage. So it's going to give us 2 different damage boosts. And then we got the 2 charges. Another really good Repkit for survivability if you're doing a lot of like driller sites is Kill Spring. This is going to convert any excess damage into healing orbs, and they're going to seek out nearby allies, including yourself. So if you're solo, this still works. And I also got splash damage on it, so I've been using this one as well. However, I don't have another Deadeye firmware to put on this, so we got this on for now so I can show you guys the firmware. For our ordnance, I found this amazing satchel charge grenade. It has lingering payload, alchemic augment, which gives us the status effect chance increased by 300%, so things are more likely to catch on fire. And then we've got nuke, which is going to give us the radius, the damage, and then increase our cooldown. And then we've got the satchel charge to remotely detonate, which is nice. You don't have to wait for it to detonate, but exploding on impact would probably be nice as well. And then with this build, the Malawan rocket launchers are really cool too. They're like little orbs, especially if you can get the ones that home in. And then with the 2-shot projectiles, I will show you this one as well. So you see how they kind of home in on the target there. but that does a lot of damage as well. The other cool ordnance, because it's a Malawan rocket launcher, is Bottled Lightning. All right, so here is Bottled Lightning. It does kind of chain lightning to everybody. That one's really fun to use as well. But for some reason, I always go back to this grenade. It's just too good, especially for the driller sites and all of that. So just find a couple ordinances that you like to play around with. And then we've got our class mod. We're going with Alchemist. You want the most points you can get into your status effect crits, because we want those crit procs. That's right down here, Keen Suffering. So I only have 2 points into here, but it definitely adds to it if you can get more points in there. I will say that Grave Elements is not bad either, because this is going to give Vex and her minions elemental damage, and it's a kill skill, which we do have a chance to proc on critical hits and also when our minions die. All right, next piece of gear is our shield. We went with the Super Soldier. This is just a great all-around shield. When this shield is full, it's going to give you an overshield, 25% fire rate, 25% movement speed, and it regens 1 ammo per second. And then lastly for our gear, we've got our enhancement. We've got our Vladoff license part, fire rate, and mag size. I was lucky enough to get assault rifle status effect damage and gun status effect damage, which the Wombo combo is an assault rifle that's doing status effect, and we got equip speed, which is whatever, but that's what we're rocking with here. And then for the firmware, I decided to go with 3-piece Deadeye and 2-piece Airstrike. The Airstrike is going to give us splash radius and splash damage, so you got to be careful when you're shooting the Wombo combo that you don't just kill yourself, but we've got these two just to help us with damage. And then lastly, taking a look at the specializations, we are heavily in the killer tree here. I would say this is really important. All 4 of these are really good for Vex. I would say these are something that you definitely want on most builds. These 2 right here riddle you this. That's going to give you gun damage stacks and 1 shot 1 kill that stores excess damage and adds it to your next gunshot. Those 2 are just really good, really nice. I would highly recommend putting 20 points into Brute and Sharpshooter. Gets you down here into Killer. And then these 2 are our status effect perks that we're choosing here. Critical hits grant increased status application chance, so that's amazing for us, and enemies take increased damage for each status effect applied to them. And you'll see in the footage on my bar, you'll see the buff bar, that for the most part this is up somewhere around 10 because we're getting so many different status effect procs. All right, next up, let's take a look at the skill tree. By now, you guys know Vex's skills pretty well, but we're going to do 5 into Cold Iron for the gun damage and minions gain gun damage. If you're doing a lot of ad clearing, you could go into Sanguine Fiends just to get some health back for the minions, but I felt like the cooldown was fast enough that I didn't need to put any points in there. And then Portents of Suffering is going to give us increased status effect damage. Of course, we want that. We're going to be using Coven for our augment just to get more crit chance. However, you could use Wither as well. In these clips, I'm kind of going back and forth using both of them just to try them out, and they both feel really good. And then in this last row, we're going to be doing Blood Sacrifice to get those kill skills activated, 2 points into Grave Fiends, and then 3 points into Grave Quickening. This gives us enough action skill cooldown rate that we can have our Spectres up pretty often. I don't feel like I'm ever like wanting them and don't have them, and we do enough damage as Vex ourselves, so you don't feel like you always need to have Spectres up anyway. Then moving over to the left branch here, so this is, we've now done a build for Dark Pact. I have a Spectre clone build over here. I have a Reaper build that I posted, and now we're doing the third branch in the blue tree. We're going over to Prismatic Ichor, and this is going to allow us to apply another random elemental status effect when we apply a status effect. So it's a way to get more statuses on there. I also played around with 1 point into Prismatic Weaponry, but I don't think it's really worth it. I think that this works out just fine. And then we've got 5 points into Keen Suffering, and that's going to allow our status effect damage to critically hit. Now this is awesome when it critically hits. And then we're using Heirloom, so Spectres gain a copy of our gun, and that's it for the blue tree. Next, let's take a look at the green tree. So our first points into Grave Sites, first 5 points, to get that crit damage, then 5 into Bloodletter for the bleed, and then we're doing 3 into Grave Power to give us our kill skills max stacks, because we do have a lot of kill skills in this build, and then our target prescience 2 out of 5 to get down to the bottom. This is going to give us a little bit of chance to get a crit hit on anywhere else on the body that's not a weak point, and then Drink Full 5 out of 5 for the fire rate, because over here on Key Mind I was trying to experiment with this, but the specters don't really do much skill damage, especially with Coven, because this just gives us crit chance. So this augment is their skill, and so the crit chance really wasn't doing much, and it's only 15% anyways, and they don't really have a skill damage that they're doing. It's just action skill damage. So Drink Full was just better to up our damage. And then lastly, 3 points, which is the rest, into Mortal Terror. This is basically the fewest points we can put into the blue tree, and going beelining down here for the Mortal Terror, and we can only get 3 points into here, but it's a 3% chance for kill skills to be activated when we are critically hitting enemies. However, that's why I say it's important to get a class mod with a lot into Keen Suffering, because you're going to get so many status effects on the enemy. They're all going to be critically hitting. You're going to be critically hitting, your specters are, etc. So it's kind of like a little snowball effect where you're going to be seeing those kill skills stack up pretty easily. Alright, that's it for the skill tree. I wanted to show you guys a couple clips of the build as well, so you can kind of get a sense for how it performs. It's going to be the best at mobbing, doing driller sites, going after vile bounties, stuff like that. Obviously for boss kills, it's not going to be as good as going in there with Incarnate and a knife or a bleed or something, because that's just ridiculous. However, Spread Shot does just fine. So you can see we went to go fight Origo, and I just pop a couple specters down so they can get out there and start shooting, and then I use Spread Launcher on them, and I swapped to Hot Slugger, which didn't really do anything, but you can see he dies just fine. And then I did another run here where I just took in the ordnance, the rocket launcher ordnance that I was showing you guys earlier with the orbs, and showing you kind of what that looks like, just going in and popping a couple specters down again and then shooting the orb rocket launcher. And obviously with the crits we are going to proc some of the bleed, and so we are going to get those bleed stacks. We'll see how they fix it in the future. They might cap the stacks at a certain amount or something like that, but of course I will always come back with an update if needed. But that's it for the build. I am most likely switching over to a new Vault Hunter starting today, so I will be over on twitch.tv/AbbyHour playing somebody new. If you guys want to suggest who I play in the comments of this video, I will take that into consideration. But I hope you enjoy the build. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.